The morning sun beat down on the Naval Special Warfare Command training facility as Marcus Chen adjusted his gear for what felt like the thousandth time. At 24, he looked younger than most of the seasoned SEALs around him, his slight frame often drawing skeptical glances from the elite warriors who dominated the compound. What they didn't know was that Marcus had already proven himself in ways that would surprise them all. Marcus had joined the Navy straight out of high school, driven by a desire to serve his country that ran deeper than most people understood. His parents, both immigrants who had built a successful restaurant business in San Diego, had initially been concerned about their son's military aspirations. They wanted him to focus on his studies, perhaps join the family business, but Marcus felt called to something greater. During his initial Navy training, Marcus had excelled in areas that many overlooked. While others focused on the obvious physical challenges, Marcus demonstrated an unusual aptitude for logistics, communication systems, and what the instructors called operational support. His test scores were consistently in the top 5%, and his ability to think quickly under pressure had caught the attention of several senior officers. The assignment to Naval Special Warfare Command had come as a surprise to everyone, including Marcus himself. Most sailors his age and rank were assigned to ships or shore stations, not to elite special operations units. When he received his orders, his parents had been both proud and worried. His father, who had served briefly in the Taiwanese military before immigrating, understood the honor of such an assignment, but also knew the dangers it implied. Marcus's first day at the SEAL compound had been an education in humility. The operators he worked alongside were legends in their own right, men who had served multiple deployments in the most dangerous places on Earth. They were bigger, stronger, and more experienced than Marcus in every obvious way. It quickly became clear that most of them viewed him as support personnel, someone whose job was to handle the administrative and logistical tasks that kept the real warriors focused on their missions. Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison, the team leader for SEAL Team 7, had been polite but distant during Marcus's initial briefing. Morrison was a 12-year veteran with deployments to Iraq, Afghanistan, and several classified locations. His reputation for tactical excellence was matched only by his reputation for demanding perfection from everyone around him. When he looked at Marcus, it was clear he saw a young sailor who would handle paperwork and equipment maintenance, while the real SEALs did the important work. The other team members had similar reactions. Chief Petty Officer Rodriguez, a massive man with arms like tree trunks, had nodded politely when introduced to Marcus but clearly didn't expect much. Petty Officer Williams, known for his expertise in demolitions, had made a few jokes about having a personal assistant assigned to the team. The humor wasn't mean-spirited, but it was clear where Marcus stood in the hierarchy. What none of them knew was that Marcus's assignment wasn't as simple as it appeared. During his advanced training, he had been selected for a specialized program that few people knew existed. The program, known internally as Force Multiplier, was designed to identify and develop sailors who could enhance the effectiveness of special operations teams through advanced technical skills and unconventional thinking. Marcus had spent 6 months in advanced training that covered everything from advanced communications and cyber warfare to foreign languages and cultural analysis. He was fluent in Mandarin, Arabic, and Spanish, skills that had been developed through intensive language immersion programs. His technical training included advanced computer systems, satellite communications, and electronic warfare techniques that even many SEALs weren't familiar with. The training had been brutal in its own way. While it didn't involve the physical challenges that SEALs faced during their selection process, it demanded mental toughness and adaptability that pushed Marcus to his limits. He had learned to function on minimal sleep while processing complex information, to think clearly under extreme stress, and to make critical decisions with incomplete information. More importantly, he had been trained to integrate seamlessly with special operations teams while contributing capabilities that enhanced their mission effectiveness. The goal wasn't to replace the SEAL's expertise, but to add layers of capability that could make the difference between mission success and failure. His instructors had been careful to explain that his role would often be misunderstood, even by the teams he was assigned to support. The nature of his training and capabilities was classified, and he wouldn't be able to simply explain to his new teammates what he brought to the table. He would have to prove himself through performance, and that proof might take time. The first few weeks at the SEAL compound had been exactly what Marcus expected. He handled routine administrative tasks, managed equipment inventories, and coordinated with other units for training exercises. The work was important, but it wasn't challenging in the way his training had prepared him for. He could see why the SEALs viewed him as support staff rather than an integral part of their operational capability. During training exercises, Marcus observed everything. He watched how the teams planned their missions, how they adapted to changing circumstances, and where potential improvements could be made. He began to understand the personalities and working styles of each team member, information that would become valuable when the time came to demonstrate his true capabilities. Chief Rodriguez, despite his imposing physical presence, was actually the team's most careful planner. He thought through every detail of an operation and had contingency plans for situations that others might not even consider. Petty Officer Williams, the demolitions expert, had an intuitive understanding of structural engineering that went far beyond his formal training. Lieutenant Commander Morrison was a natural leader who could inspire confidence in his men, even in the most challenging circumstances. Marcus also began to notice things that the team might not have recognized about their own operations. Communication protocols that could be streamlined, equipment configurations that could be optimized, and tactical approaches that could benefit from additional intelligence or technical support. He kept these observations to himself for now, knowing that suggestions from the new guy would likely be dismissed regardless of their merit. The breakthrough came during a routine training exercise that suddenly became much more complex. The team was conducting a simulated hostage rescue mission in a mock urban environment when the scenario controllers introduced an unexpected element. The hostages were being held in a building with sophisticated electronic countermeasures that were jamming standard communications equipment. Lieutenant Commander Morrison's team found themselves cut off from their command structure and unable to coordinate with supporting elements. The mission parameters required them to maintain contact with headquarters while executing a precise tactical plan, but their standard equipment wasn't functioning in the electronic warfare environment that had been created for the exercise. As the team huddled behind cover, trying to figure out how to adapt their plan to the new circumstances, Marcus quietly approached Lieutenant Commander Morrison. He had been monitoring the situation and had identified several potential solutions using equipment that was available but not part of the standard SEAL kit. Morrison's initial reaction was skeptical, but as Marcus explained his assessment of the electronic countermeasures and his proposed workarounds, the lieutenant commander's expression changed. Marcus wasn't just offering random suggestions. He was demonstrating a deep understanding of the technical challenges they faced and providing practical solutions that could be implemented immediately. Working quickly, Marcus reconfigured their communications equipment to operate on frequencies that weren't being jammed, established a relay system using portable devices that could penetrate the electronic interference, and provided Morrison with intelligence about the countermeasures that allowed the team to plan their approach more effectively. The mission proceeded flawlessly. Not only did Morrison's team successfully complete their primary objective, but they did so with better coordination and more complete intelligence than would have been possible using standard procedures. When the exercise concluded, the evaluators specifically noted the team's exceptional performance in adapting to unexpected electronic warfare challenges. After the debrief, Lieutenant Commander Morrison pulled Marcus aside. For the first time since Marcus had joined the team, Morrison looked at him with genuine curiosity rather than polite dismissal. He wanted to understand how a young sailor with no apparent special operations background had been able to solve problems that had stumped experienced SEALs. Marcus explained what he could without revealing classified details about his training. He described his background in communications and electronics, his experience with various technical systems, and his interest in finding ways to enhance team effectiveness. Morrison listened carefully, asking pointed questions that revealed his growing appreciation for what Marcus might contribute to future operations. That conversation marked the beginning of a transformation in how the team viewed Marcus. Chief Rodriguez, who had witnessed Marcus's work during the exercise, began asking for his input on equipment and logistical challenges. Petty Officer Williams discovered that Marcus had insights into structural analysis that complemented his demolitions expertise. Other team members started coming to Marcus with technical questions and problems that had been frustrating them. More importantly, Lieutenant Commander Morrison began including Marcus in mission planning sessions. Initially, Marcus's role was limited to providing technical assessments and logistical support, but his contributions quickly expanded as Morrison recognized the value of his analytical approach and his ability to see solutions that others missed. The team's next major training exercise involved a complex maritime operation that required coordination between multiple units and precise timing to succeed. Marcus's enhanced communications capabilities and his ability to process and analyze real-time intelligence became crucial elements in the mission's success. By the end of that exercise, it was clear that Marcus had become an integral part of the team's operational effectiveness. Word of the team's exceptional performance began to spread throughout the Naval Special Warfare Command. Other SEAL teams started requesting similar support capabilities, and senior officers began asking questions about how Morrison's team had achieved such consistent success in challenging training scenarios. What Marcus didn't know was that his performance was being monitored at levels far above the immediate command structure. Admiral Patricia Hayes, the commanding officer of Naval Special Warfare Command, had been receiving detailed reports about the young sailor whose unconventional skills were enhancing SEAL team effectiveness in ways that traditional approaches couldn't achieve. Admiral Hayes was a 30-year Navy veteran who had risen through the ranks by recognizing talent and potential wherever it appeared. She had been instrumental in developing several innovative programs that enhanced special operations capabilities, and she understood better than most how the right person in the right role could multiply the effectiveness of an entire unit. The Admiral had been following Marcus's progress since his selection for the Force Multiplier program. She had personally reviewed his training records, his performance evaluations, and the detailed reports from his instructors. What impressed her most wasn't just Marcus's technical capabilities, but his ability to integrate with teams and enhance their performance without disrupting their established dynamics. As Marcus continued to prove himself with Morrison's team, Admiral Hayes began developing plans for how his unique skill set could be utilized more broadly within Naval Special Warfare Command. She recognized that Marcus represented a new model for how special operations could be enhanced through the integration of advanced technical capabilities and unconventional thinking. The stage was being set for Marcus to face his greatest challenge yet, one that would test not only his skills and training, but also his ability to perform under the most intense pressure imaginable. Admiral Hayes was about to present him with an opportunity that would change his career and his life. But first, he would have to prove himself in ways that even his comprehensive training hadn't fully prepared him for. Unknown to Marcus, his next assignment would take him far from the training facilities where he had been proving himself with Morrison's team. He was about to enter a world where the stakes were real, where his unconventional skills would be tested against genuine threats, and where his ability to enhance SEAL team effectiveness would mean the difference between life and death for American servicemen and women operating in harm's way. The secure briefing room at Naval Special Warfare Command was unlike any space Marcus had experienced before. The walls were lined with sophisticated electronic equipment designed to prevent any form of surveillance or communication leakage. When Admiral Hayes entered the room, accompanied by Lieutenant Commander Morrison and two officers Marcus didn't recognize, he understood that whatever was about to happen would change everything. Admiral Hayes was an imposing figure who commanded respect through presence rather than volume. At 52, she had served in every major military operation of the past 2 decades, earning her reputation as one of the Navy's most innovative and effective leaders. Her silver hair was pulled back in a regulation style that somehow managed to look both professional and elegant, and her dark eyes seemed to assess everything around her with the precision of someone accustomed to making life-and-death decisions. The Admiral's opening words immediately captured Marcus's attention. "Petty Officer Chen, your performance over the past several months has been exceptional. Lieutenant Commander Morrison speaks very highly of your contributions to his team's effectiveness, and your training records indicate capabilities that could be valuable in a very specific and challenging situation." Marcus felt his heart rate increase as Admiral Hayes continued. "We have received intelligence about a situation that requires immediate attention. A group of American civilian contractors has been taken hostage in a remote region of Southeast Asia. The location is controlled by a well-armed insurgent group that has sophisticated electronic warfare capabilities and intimate knowledge of the local terrain. The Admiral activated a large display screen that showed satellite imagery of a mountainous region covered in dense jungle. Standard rescue operations face significant challenges in this environment. The insurgents have positioned themselves in a location that's difficult to approach without detection, and they've established electronic countermeasures that make traditional communication and coordination extremely difficult. Lieutenant Commander Morrison stepped forward to provide additional details. Intelligence indicates that the hostage-takers have at least 12 armed fighters with military training. They're using equipment that can jam most standard military communications, and they've positioned surveillance devices throughout the approaches to their compound. Any rescue attempt will require precise coordination and the ability to overcome significant technical challenges. Marcus listened carefully as the briefing continued. The civilian contractors were engineers who had been working on infrastructure projects in the region when they were captured 3 days earlier. Time was running out, as intelligence suggested that the insurgents planned to move the hostages to a more remote location within 48 hours, making any rescue attempt exponentially more difficult. The Admiral's expression grew more serious as she addressed Marcus directly. Your unique training and demonstrated capabilities make you potentially valuable for this operation, but I want to be absolutely clear about what we're asking. This is not a training exercise. The risks are real, and there are no guarantees about outcomes. Admiral Hayes paused, allowing the weight of her words to settle before continuing. Lieutenant Commander Morrison has requested that you be included in the mission team, but the final decision is yours. You have the right to decline this assignment without any negative impact on your career or standing. Marcus felt the eyes of everyone in the room focused on him. This was the moment he had been training for, but the reality of it was more intense than anything he had imagined during his preparation. The thought of American civilians in danger, depending on his abilities to help bring them home safely, made his decision clear. I volunteer for the mission, Admiral, Marcus said without hesitation. My training was designed for exactly this type of situation, and I believe I can contribute to the team's effectiveness in ways that could make a crucial difference. Admiral Hayes nodded approvingly. Very well. You'll be briefed on the specific operational details and will depart with Lieutenant Commander Morrison's team in 6 hours. The mission will require you to demonstrate every skill you've developed during your training, and probably some you haven't thought of yet. The next several hours passed in a blur of intensive preparation. Marcus was introduced to the full mission team, which included Morrison's regular SEAL unit plus additional specialists in reconnaissance, communications, and medical support. Each team member received detailed briefings on the target location, the hostage situation, and the specific challenges they would face. The intelligence package was more comprehensive than anything Marcus had worked with during training. Satellite imagery showed the compound where the hostages were being held, but it also revealed the sophisticated defensive measures that the insurgents had established. Motion sensors, communication jammers, and strategically positioned observation posts created a security perimeter that would challenge even the most experienced special operations team. Marcus spent considerable time analyzing the electronic warfare capabilities that the insurgents had deployed. The equipment they were using was more advanced than he had expected, including systems that could not only jam communications, but also detect and track electronic devices that might be used by approaching forces. Overcoming these countermeasures would require innovative solutions that went beyond standard military procedures. Working with the team's communications specialist, Marcus developed a multi-layered approach that would allow the rescue team to maintain contact with their command structure while operating in the jammed environment. The solution involved using multiple frequency ranges, directional antennas, and relay systems that could adapt to changing electronic warfare conditions in real time. The planning session revealed the depth of Lieutenant Commander Morrison's tactical expertise. He had developed a complex approach plan that would allow the team to reach the compound without triggering the insurgents' early warning systems. The plan required precise timing and coordination between multiple elements, including aerial support and ground-based diversion activities. What impressed Marcus most was how Morrison incorporated his technical capabilities into the tactical plan. Rather than treating Marcus as an add-on to the team's standard procedures, Morrison had designed the operation to leverage Marcus's unique skills as integral elements of the mission's success. This level of integration required Morrison to trust capabilities he didn't fully understand, a level of confidence in Marcus that was both inspiring and intimidating. Chief Rodriguez had taken charge of equipment preparation, ensuring that each team member had everything necessary for their specific role in the operation. For Marcus, this included not only standard combat gear, but also specialized electronic equipment that would allow him to counter the insurgents' technological advantages and provide enhanced intelligence to the team during the mission. The flight to the operational area took place aboard a specially configured aircraft that allowed the team to conduct final preparations while en route. Marcus used the time to test and calibrate his equipment, ensuring that everything would function properly in the challenging environment they were entering. As the aircraft approached the insertion point, Marcus felt a combination of excitement and anxiety that he had never experienced before. All of his training had led to this moment, but the reality of deploying into a hostile environment where American lives hung in the balance was more intense than any simulation could have prepared him for. The insertion itself went smoothly, with the team parachuting into a remote area several miles from the target compound. Marcus's equipment functioned perfectly during the jump, and he felt a surge of confidence as they regrouped on the ground and began their approach to the mission objective. The jungle environment was more challenging than Marcus had anticipated. The heat and humidity were oppressive, and the dense vegetation made movement slow and difficult. More concerning was the immediate evidence that the insurgents' electronic warfare systems were functioning as advertised. Standard communications equipment was completely jammed, and even GPS signals were being interfered with to some degree. Marcus quickly implemented the communication solutions he had developed during mission planning. By establishing a series of relay points and using directional antennas that could penetrate the jamming, he was able to restore contact between team elements and with their command structure. Lieutenant Commander Morrison's expression of relief when communications were restored confirmed how crucial this capability was to the mission's success. As the team moved closer to the target compound, Marcus's enhanced surveillance equipment began providing intelligence that wasn't available through standard reconnaissance methods. He was able to detect and locate several of the insurgents' sensors and surveillance devices, allowing the team to avoid detection while approaching their objective. The information Marcus provided also revealed details about the compound's internal layout that hadn't been apparent from satellite imagery. By analyzing electronic emissions and communication patterns, he was able to determine where the hostages were likely being held and how many guards were in the immediate area. This intelligence allowed Lieutenant Commander Morrison to refine the tactical plan as they approached the compound. Instead of the broad assault that had originally been envisioned, Morrison was able to design a more precise approach that would minimize risks to the hostages while maximizing the team's advantages. When they reached the final observation position overlooking the compound, Marcus's technical assessment confirmed that the insurgents were indeed well-equipped and professionally organized. The electronic warfare systems they had deployed were military-grade equipment that suggested support from a sophisticated organization, not the improvised capabilities of a typical insurgent group. Lieutenant Commander Morrison made the decision to proceed with the rescue attempt despite the enhanced threat level. The intelligence indicated that the hostages were in immediate danger, and delaying the operation would likely result in their being moved to a location where rescue would be impossible. As the team prepared for the final approach, Marcus felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. The success of the mission would depend not only on the SEAL's combat expertise, but also on his ability to neutralize the electronic countermeasures that protected the compound and provide the intelligence necessary for the team to operate effectively. The moment of truth was approaching. In a matter of minutes, Marcus would discover whether his training and capabilities were sufficient to support a real-world special operations mission where failure meant that American civilians might not return home to their families. The theoretical had become reality, and everything he had worked for would be tested under the most demanding circumstances imaginable. Lieutenant Commander Morrison gave the signal to begin the final phase of the approach. As the team moved into position around the compound, Marcus activated the most sophisticated countermeasures in his arsenal, preparing to engage in electronic warfare against an enemy that had chosen the wrong Americans to threaten. The rescue operation was about to begin, and Marcus was ready to prove that his unconventional skills could make the difference between mission success and failure. The compound lay before them like a fortress carved from the jungle itself. Through his night vision equipment, Marcus could see the systematic way the insurgents had prepared their defensive positions. Every approach was covered by overlapping fields of fire, and the electronic surveillance network created an invisible web of detection capabilities that would challenge any conventional assault. Marcus worked quickly to establish his electronic warfare capabilities. Using equipment that looked deceptively simple but represented years of advanced development, he began probing the insurgents' communication and surveillance systems. What he discovered was both impressive and concerning. The enemy had access to military-grade equipment that should not have been available to insurgent groups, suggesting support from a nation-state actor. The jamming systems were operating on multiple frequency ranges simultaneously, creating a communications blackout that extended for several kilometers around the compound. More sophisticated was the network of motion sensors and thermal detection devices that had been positioned to provide early warning of any approaching threat. Marcus realized that a conventional assault would likely be detected before the team could get close enough to be effective. Working with methodical precision, Marcus began implementing countermeasures that he had developed during his advanced training. Rather than trying to overpower the jamming systems, which would have required more equipment than the team could carry, he focused on finding gaps in the electronic coverage and exploiting weaknesses in the system design. The breakthrough came when Marcus identified a vulnerability in how the different electronic systems coordinated with each other. The insurgents had created an impressive defensive network, but they had failed to properly integrate the various components, leaving communication pathways that could be exploited by someone with the right knowledge and equipment. Marcus quietly reported his findings to Lieutenant Commander Morrison through the secure communication system he had established. The intelligence he provided revealed not only how to approach the compound without detection, but also where the hostages were being held and how many guards were in the immediate area. The hostages were being kept in a concrete building at the center of the compound, guarded by 4 insurgents with additional fighters positioned throughout the perimeter. Marcus's electronic intelligence indicated that the insurgents were planning to move the hostages at dawn, which was still several hours away. This gave Morrison's team a narrow window of opportunity to execute the rescue. Morrison's tactical plan was elegant in its simplicity. Rather than a direct assault that would put the hostages at risk, the team would use Marcus's intelligence to neutralize key defensive positions silently, then conduct a coordinated assault that would overwhelm the remaining resistance before the insurgents could harm their captives. The plan required Marcus to do something that went far beyond his training scenarios. He would need to actively participate in the assault while simultaneously maintaining the electronic warfare capabilities that were crucial to the mission's success. This meant carrying both his specialized equipment and standard combat gear while keeping up with SEALs who were operating at the peak of their physical capabilities. Chief Rodriguez had worked with Marcus to configure his equipment loadout for maximum mobility without sacrificing essential capabilities. The solution involved distributing some of the electronic warfare equipment among other team members and relying on portable systems that could be activated quickly when needed. As the team began their final approach, Marcus felt the familiar rush of adrenaline that he remembered from his most challenging training exercises. But this time, the stakes were real. American civilians were counting on his ability to perform under pressure, and there would be no opportunity for second chances if something went wrong. The first phase of the assault went exactly as planned. Using the gaps in electronic surveillance that Marcus had identified, the team was able to approach within 50 meters of the compound without triggering any alarms. Marcus's continuous monitoring of the insurgents' communications confirmed that they had not detected the approaching SEALs. Lieutenant Commander Morrison signaled for the team to move into their final positions. Marcus found himself paired with Petty Officer Williams, the demolitions expert, whose job was to create a diversion that would draw attention away from the main assault. Marcus's role was to ensure that Williams could complete his mission without triggering electronic countermeasures that might alert the entire compound. The coordination required between Marcus and Williams represented everything that Marcus had learned about integrating with SEAL teams. Williams needed to place charges that would create maximum confusion while minimizing risk to the hostages. Marcus needed to ensure that the electronic detection systems wouldn't identify Williams's movement, and that communication systems would be available for the team to coordinate their response to changing circumstances. Working together with the smooth efficiency that comes from extensive training and mutual trust, Marcus and Williams moved through the compound's outer perimeter. Marcus's electronic countermeasures created blind spots in the surveillance network that allowed Williams to reach his target positions without detection. When Williams detonated his charges, the effect was exactly what Morrison had hoped for. The explosions created confusion and drew most of the insurgent fighters away from the building where the hostages were being held. At the same time, Marcus activated jamming systems that prevented the insurgents from coordinating their response effectively. The main assault began immediately after Williams's diversion. Morrison led Chief Rodriguez and 2 other SEALs in a direct attack on the hostage building, while the remaining team members engaged the insurgents who were responding to the explosions. The timing was precise, with each element of the team executing their assigned tasks with the coordination that only comes from extensive training and absolute trust in each other's capabilities. Marcus's role during the assault was unlike anything he had experienced before. While maintaining his electronic warfare capabilities, he found himself in direct combat with insurgent fighters who were trying to reestablish communication and coordinate a counterattack. The months of physical training that had been part of his force multiplier preparation proved crucial as he fought alongside the SEALs while continuing to provide the technical support that was essential to the mission's success. The hostage rescue itself went smoothly. Morrison's team neutralized the guards and secured the 4 American contractors, who were shaken but uninjured. The hostages had been held for 3 days, but had not been mistreated beyond the stress of their captivity. Their relief at seeing American military personnel was evident, and their cooperation during the extraction made the SEALs' job significantly easier. However, the mission was far from over. Intelligence indicated that additional insurgent forces were in the area and would likely respond once they became aware of the rescue operation. The team needed to extract the hostages and reach their pickup point before enemy reinforcements could arrive and complicate the situation. The extraction route had been carefully planned to avoid known insurgent positions and take advantage of terrain that would favor the American team. But Marcus's monitoring of enemy communications revealed that the situation was developing more quickly than anticipated. The insurgents were mobilizing additional fighters and had called for support from allied groups in the region. Marcus provided Lieutenant Commander Morrison with real-time intelligence about enemy movements and communication patterns. This information allowed Morrison to adjust the extraction route and timing to avoid contact with superior enemy forces. The ability to monitor enemy activities and adapt the plan accordingly was exactly the type of capability that the Force Multiplier program had been designed to provide. The journey to the extraction point took 4 hours through difficult jungle terrain. The hostages, though in reasonably good physical condition, were not prepared for the demanding pace that was necessary to stay ahead of pursuing enemy forces. Marcus found himself helping to carry equipment for the hostages while continuing to monitor electronic communications and provide intelligence updates to the team leadership. During the extraction, Marcus demonstrated another capability that surprised even Lieutenant Commander Morrison. When one of the hostages suffered a panic attack that threatened to compromise the team's movement, Marcus was able to provide psychological support that calmed the individual and allowed the group to continue. His training had included modules on crisis psychology and stress management that proved valuable in this unexpected situation. The extraction itself was a masterpiece of coordination between the rescue team and supporting elements. As Morrison's team reached the pickup point, attack helicopters arrived to provide cover while transport aircraft evacuated the hostages and the rescue team. Marcus's communication capabilities ensured that the coordination between ground and air elements was seamless despite the challenging electronic warfare environment. As the aircraft lifted off from the extraction point, Marcus felt a sense of accomplishment unlike anything he had experienced before. The mission had been successful not just because of the SEAL's combat expertise, but because his unconventional capabilities had made crucial contributions at every phase of the operation. He had proven to himself and to his teammates that his training and skills could make a real difference in life-and-death situations. Lieutenant Commander Morrison's debrief comments were more positive than Marcus had dared to hope. Morrison specifically noted how Marcus's electronic warfare capabilities had been essential to the mission's success, and how his ability to integrate with the team while providing specialized support had enhanced their overall effectiveness. Chief Rodriguez, who had initially been skeptical about having a non-SEAL assigned to the team, was equally complimentary. He noted that Marcus had not only provided valuable technical capabilities, but had also proven himself in combat, earning the respect of the entire team through his performance under pressure. What Marcus didn't know was that Admiral Hayes had been monitoring the mission from the command center at Naval Special Warfare Command. Every aspect of the operation had been recorded and analyzed, providing detailed documentation of how Marcus's unique capabilities had contributed to the successful rescue of American civilians. The Admiral's assessment was that Marcus represented a new model for enhancing special operations effectiveness. His ability to integrate advanced technical capabilities with combat operations had proven itself under the most demanding circumstances. More importantly, his performance had demonstrated that the force multiplier concept could work in real-world situations where the stakes were highest. But Admiral Hayes also recognized that Marcus's success had created new challenges. Other units were already requesting similar capabilities, and senior officers throughout the military were asking questions about how such capabilities could be developed and deployed more broadly. Marcus had proven the concept, but now the Navy needed to figure out how to scale it. The stage was set for Marcus to face an even greater challenge. His success in the hostage rescue had brought him to the attention of senior officers throughout the military establishment, including some who questioned whether his unconventional approach was appropriate for traditional military units. The next phase of his career would test not only his capabilities, but also his ability to navigate the complex politics of military innovation and change. Unknown to Marcus, his next assignment would place him in a position where he would have to prove himself to the most senior levels of military leadership, including officers who remained skeptical about whether his approach represented genuine innovation or a departure from proven military traditions. The stakes would be even higher, and the challenges would test every aspect of his training and character. The Pentagon briefing room was filled with some of the most senior military leaders in the United States, including representatives from all service branches and several civilian defense officials. Marcus had been summoned to brief these officials on the capabilities he had demonstrated during the hostage rescue mission, but he quickly realized that not everyone in the room was supportive of what they were hearing. Admiral Hayes had arranged the briefing as part of a broader discussion about innovative approaches to special operations. She believed that Marcus's success demonstrated the potential for enhancing traditional military capabilities through the integration of advanced technical skills and unconventional thinking. However, several senior officers remained skeptical about departing from proven methods that had served the military effectively for decades. General Robert Patterson, a four-star Army officer with extensive special operations experience, led the questioning. Patterson was known throughout the military as a traditionalist who believed that combat effectiveness came from rigorous training, proven tactics, and unwavering adherence to established procedures. His questions for Marcus were pointed and challenging. "Petty Officer Chen," General Patterson began, "I've read the reports from your recent operation, and while the results were successful, I have concerns about the methods used. Military effectiveness has always depended on standardized procedures and proven tactics. How do we ensure that your approach can be reliably replicated and doesn't depend on individual capabilities that can't be systematically developed?" Marcus had anticipated this type of question during his preparation for the briefing. His response was carefully considered and respectful of the general's concerns while explaining the value of his approach. "Sir, the capabilities I demonstrated aren't dependent on unique individual talents, but rather on systematic training that could be provided to other personnel. The Force Multiplier program that prepared me for this assignment has developed standardized curricula and assessment procedures that could be expanded to train additional operators with similar capabilities." General Patterson pressed further. "But what happens when those technical systems fail? Military operations have to be planned around reliable capabilities, not experimental approaches that might not work under combat conditions. How do we know that your methods won't leave our forces vulnerable when they need them most?" The question revealed the fundamental tension that Marcus's success had created within the military establishment. Traditional special operations had proven themselves through decades of successful missions using established techniques. Introducing new capabilities, no matter how promising, created uncertainties that many senior officers found concerning. Marcus's response addressed both the technical aspects of General Patterson's question and the broader philosophical issues it raised. Sir, the capabilities I provide are designed to enhance, not replace, traditional special operations methods. During our recent mission, standard SEAL tactics remained the foundation of our success. My role was to provide additional intelligence and technical capabilities that allowed those proven tactics to be more effective. Admiral Hayes intervened to provide additional context. General Patterson, I understand your concerns about departing from proven methods. However, our potential adversaries are continuously developing new capabilities that challenge our traditional approaches. The electronic warfare environment that Marcus's team encountered during the hostage rescue mission is becoming increasingly common in modern conflict scenarios. The Admiral activated a display screen that showed intelligence assessments from recent operations around the world. These reports demonstrate that our adversaries are using electronic countermeasures, cyber warfare, and advanced surveillance technologies that can neutralize many of our conventional advantages. We need to develop capabilities that can operate effectively in these challenging environments. Colonel Sarah Mitchell, a Marine Corps officer with extensive experience in irregular warfare, asked a different type of question that revealed her understanding of the broader strategic implications. Petty Officer Chen, how do your capabilities affect the decision-making process during missions? Do they provide commanders with better information for making tactical decisions, or do they require changes in how operations are planned and executed? Marcus appreciated the sophistication of Colonel Mitchell's question, which demonstrated that she understood the complexity of integrating new capabilities into existing operational frameworks. His response revealed the depth of thought that had gone into developing the force multiplier concept. Ma'am, the enhanced intelligence and technical capabilities provide commanders with better situational awareness and more options for achieving mission objectives. However, they don't require fundamental changes to proven tactical procedures. Lieutenant Commander Morrison retained complete tactical control throughout our mission, using the additional information to make better decisions within established operational frameworks. The discussion continued for over an hour, with various officers asking detailed questions about specific aspects of Marcus's training, the equipment he used, and the potential for scaling his capabilities to larger units. Some questions revealed genuine interest in understanding how these innovations could enhance military effectiveness, while others reflected skepticism about departing from traditional methods. Captain James Wilson, a Navy officer with extensive submarine warfare experience, asked about the broader implications for military culture and unit cohesion. How do you integrate personnel with these specialized capabilities into established units without disrupting the team dynamics that are crucial to special operations effectiveness? Marcus's answer drew on his experience with Lieutenant Commander Morrison's team and the lessons he had learned about building trust and mutual respect with highly experienced operators. Sir, successful integration requires demonstrating value through performance rather than trying to convince people through explanation. The SEALs I worked with accepted my contributions because they could see how those contributions enhanced their mission effectiveness. As the briefing continued, Marcus began to sense a shift in the room's atmosphere. Several officers who had initially seemed skeptical were asking more detailed questions about implementation and training procedures. They were beginning to see the potential value of his approach, while recognizing that it could complement rather than replace traditional military capabilities. The turning point came when Admiral Patricia Hayes announced that Marcus had been selected for assignment to a joint task force that was being organized to address emerging threats in the Pacific region. The assignment would place him in a position to work with elite units from multiple service branches while demonstrating his capabilities in increasingly challenging operational environments. Petty Officer Chen will be assigned to Joint Task Force Pacific, where he will support multiple special operations units in developing enhanced capabilities for operating in contested electronic warfare environments, Admiral Hayes announced. This assignment will provide opportunities to refine and expand the force multiplier concept while supporting critical national security missions. The announcement revealed that Marcus's success had created opportunities that extended far beyond his original assignment with Morrison's SEAL team. Senior military leaders were beginning to recognize that his capabilities represented a new approach to enhancing special operations effectiveness that could have broad applications across different types of missions and operational environments. However, the assignment also created new pressures and expectations. Marcus would be working with units that had their own established cultures and procedures, and he would need to prove himself repeatedly to leaders who might not be familiar with his background or capabilities. The stakes would be higher, and the challenges would be more complex than anything he had faced before. General Patterson, despite his earlier skepticism, offered a concluding comment that revealed his grudging respect for what Marcus had accomplished. "Petty officer, I still have reservations about departing from proven methods, but I can't argue with successful results. If your capabilities can enhance our effectiveness without compromising our operational security, then I support their development." The general's qualified endorsement was significant because of his influence within the military establishment. His support, even with reservations, would make it easier for Marcus to gain acceptance with units that might otherwise be resistant to his unconventional approach. As the briefing concluded, Admiral Hayes pulled Marcus aside for a private conversation that would shape the next phase of his career. "Marcus, what you've accomplished has created opportunities that few people your age and rank ever experience, but it's also created expectations and pressures that you need to be prepared for." The Admiral's expression was serious as she continued. "Your next assignment will place you in situations where the political and strategic stakes are much higher than anything you've experienced. You'll be working with units that have their own proud traditions and proven track records. Your job will be to enhance their effectiveness without appearing to threaten their established methods or culture." Marcus understood that Admiral Hayes was preparing him for challenges that went beyond the technical aspects of his mission. Success in his new role would require not only technical competence, but also political awareness and the ability to navigate complex relationships with senior officers who might view his capabilities with suspicion or skepticism. The Admiral concluded with words that would stay with Marcus throughout his upcoming assignment. "Remember that your ultimate goal isn't to prove that you're right or that your methods are superior. Your goal is to enhance the effectiveness of American military forces while respecting the traditions and expertise that have made them successful. If you can do that, you'll have a career that makes a real difference for our national security." As Marcus left the Pentagon that day, he reflected on how far he had come from his early days as a young sailor who was viewed primarily as support personnel. He had proven that his unconventional capabilities could enhance special operations effectiveness in life-and-death situations. Now he faced the challenge of demonstrating those capabilities on a larger stage, where the consequences of success or failure would affect not only individual missions, but also broader military policy and strategy. The stage was set for Marcus to face his ultimate test. His assignment to Joint Task Force Pacific would place him in the most demanding operational environment imaginable, working with the most elite military units in the world while under the scrutiny of senior leaders who would determine whether his approach represented the future of special operations or an interesting experiment that had reached its limits. Unknown to Marcus, his new assignment would soon place him in a situation where he would have to prove himself to the highest levels of military command, including officers who had the authority to shape the future direction of American special operations capabilities. The decisions made about his performance would affect not only his own career, but also the potential for developing similar capabilities throughout the military establishment. The crisis in the South China Sea had escalated beyond anything the intelligence community had predicted. What began as routine naval exercises had evolved into a complex standoff involving multiple nations, with American forces caught in the middle of rapidly changing political and military dynamics. Joint Task Force Pacific had been activated to coordinate the American response, and Marcus found himself at the center of the most challenging operation of his career. Admiral William Thompson, the commanding officer of Joint Task Force Pacific, was a legendary figure in naval warfare. A 35-year veteran with command experience in every major military operation of the past 2 decades, Thompson was known for his ability to manage complex multi-service operations while maintaining the respect and confidence of senior political leadership. When he requested Marcus for his task force, it represented both an opportunity and a tremendous responsibility. The situation that brought Marcus to Admiral Thompson's attention involved a sophisticated cyber and electronic warfare attack against American naval forces operating in international waters. Multiple ships had experienced coordinated communications failures, navigation system malfunctions, and radar interference that threatened their operational effectiveness and potentially their safety. Traditional military responses to electronic warfare focused on protecting systems through hardening and backup procedures. However, the attacks the task force was experiencing were more sophisticated than conventional countermeasures could address. The enemy was using adaptive techniques that could overcome standard protective measures and continue to evolve as American forces implemented new defenses. Marcus's assignment to the task force came with explicit instructions from Admiral Hayes to demonstrate how his force multiplier capabilities could enhance the effectiveness of joint military operations. Success would validate the concept and potentially lead to its expansion throughout the military. Failure would likely end the program and limit opportunities for similar innovations in the future. The pressure was intensified by the presence of senior officers from all service branches who had been assigned to observe and evaluate Marcus's performance. These officers represented different perspectives on military innovation and change, ranging from enthusiastic supporters of new capabilities to skeptical traditionalists who questioned the value of departing from proven methods. Admiral Thompson's initial briefing revealed the scope of the challenges the task force was facing. The electronic warfare environment we're operating in represents a new level of sophistication and coordination, Thompson explained. Our adversaries are using techniques that suggest nation-state level capabilities deployed through proxy forces that are difficult to identify and counter. The Admiral's assessment continued with details that revealed why conventional approaches were proving inadequate. Standard electronic warfare countermeasures are being neutralized by adaptive systems that can modify their attack patterns faster than our defensive systems can respond. We need capabilities that can operate in this environment and provide us with the intelligence necessary to develop effective countermeasures. Marcus's role in addressing these challenges would test every aspect of his training and experience. He would need to analyze and counter electronic warfare systems that were more sophisticated than anything he had encountered before, while working with military units that had their own established procedures and cultures. The first phase of his assignment involved working with the task force intelligence staff to understand the full scope of the electronic warfare threat. What Marcus discovered was more concerning than the initial briefings had suggested. The attacks were not random or opportunistic, but appeared to be part of a coordinated campaign designed to test and probe American defensive capabilities. Marcus's analysis revealed patterns in the attacks that suggested the adversary was systematically gathering intelligence about American electronic warfare capabilities and developing countermeasures designed to neutralize specific systems and procedures. This was not simply an attempt to disrupt American operations, but rather a comprehensive effort to understand and defeat American technological advantages. Working with the task force cyber warfare specialists, Marcus developed a multi-layered response that went beyond traditional defensive measures. Instead of simply protecting American systems from attack, his approach focused on turning the electronic warfare environment to American advantage by using the adversary's own techniques against them. The plan Marcus developed involved creating false electronic signatures that would mislead the adversary about American capabilities, while simultaneously gathering intelligence about their systems and procedures. By making it appear that American defenses were less sophisticated than they actually were, the plan would encourage the adversary to reveal more advanced capabilities that could then be analyzed and countered. Admiral Thompson's decision to approve Marcus's unconventional approach represented a significant demonstration of confidence in his capabilities. Traditional military thinking favored proven defensive measures over experimental techniques, but Thompson recognized that conventional approaches were not working against the sophisticated threats the task force was facing. The implementation of Marcus's plan required coordination between multiple units and service branches, each with their own procedures and command structures. Marcus found himself working directly with senior officers from the Navy, Air Force, and Marine Corps, explaining technical concepts and procedures to leaders who were accustomed to being the ultimate authorities in their areas of expertise. Colonel Rebecca Martinez, the Air Force's senior electronic warfare officer assigned to the task force, initially questioned whether Marcus's approach was compatible with established Air Force procedures. However, as Marcus demonstrated how his techniques could enhance rather than replace existing capabilities, Martinez became one of his strongest supporters. What Marcus is proposing doesn't require us to abandon proven methods, Martinez explained to other senior officers. Instead, it provides us with additional tools that can make our existing capabilities more effective in challenging environments. The test of Marcus's approach came during a complex multi-service exercise that simulated the electronic warfare environment the task force had been experiencing. Marcus's countermeasures not only protected American forces from simulated attacks, but also provided intelligence that allowed task force commanders to identify and neutralize the source of the threats. More importantly, the exercise demonstrated that Marcus's techniques could be integrated with existing military procedures without disrupting established command structures or operational frameworks. Units were able to maintain their traditional approaches while benefiting from enhanced intelligence and technical capabilities. Admiral Thompson's assessment of the exercise results was unambiguous. The capabilities that Petty Officer Chen has demonstrated represent exactly the type of innovation our forces need to maintain superiority in increasingly complex operational environments. His approach enhances our traditional strengths while providing new tools for addressing emerging threats. The success of the exercise led to Marcus being assigned to support real-world operations throughout the Pacific region. Over the following months, he worked with elite units from multiple service branches, consistently demonstrating how his capabilities could enhance mission effectiveness while respecting established military traditions and procedures. Each successful mission built Marcus's reputation within the special operations community and provided additional evidence that the force multiplier concept could work in various operational environments. Senior officers who had initially been skeptical began requesting his support for their most challenging assignments. The culmination of Marcus's success came during a joint operation that required coordination between Navy SEALs, Army Special Forces, Air Force Special Operations units, and Marine Corps reconnaissance teams. The mission involved multiple objectives in different locations, all of which had to be achieved simultaneously to prevent adversary forces from responding effectively. Marcus's role in the operation went far beyond his original assignment as a technical specialist. Admiral Thompson designated him as the task force's senior coordination officer for electronic warfare and intelligence, a position that required him to work directly with unit commanders from all service branches while maintaining the technical capabilities that had originally brought him to the Admiral's attention. The operation's success validated everything that Admiral Hayes had believed about Marcus's potential when she first identified him for the Force Multiplier program. Not only had he demonstrated exceptional technical capabilities, but he had also proven his ability to integrate with elite military units while enhancing their effectiveness in ways that traditional approaches could not achieve. The recognition Marcus received following the successful joint operation exceeded anything he had imagined when he first enlisted in the Navy. Admiral Thompson personally recommended him for promotion and for assignment to increasingly responsible positions within the special operations community. However, the most meaningful recognition came from an unexpected source. During the post-operation celebration, Admiral Hayes approached Marcus with news that would define the next phase of his career. The success of the Force Multiplier program had convinced senior military leaders to expand the concept throughout the special operations community, and Marcus had been selected to lead the development of training programs that would create similar capabilities in other personnel. But the most surprising moment came when Admiral Thompson called for attention during the celebration and announced that Marcus would receive a commendation that recognized not only his technical contributions, but also his leadership and his success in enhancing joint military operations. As the Admiral presented the award, he said words that Marcus would never forget. "Petty Officer Chen, when you first joined this task force, Many people saw you as a technical specialist who would provide support for our operations. What you've proven is that innovation and tradition can work together to make our forces more effective than either approach could achieve alone. The Admiral paused, then continued with words that captured the transformation Marcus had achieved. Today, I'm not presenting this award to our technical specialist or our support personnel. I'm presenting it to one of our most valuable operational officers, someone who has earned the respect and confidence of elite military units through demonstrated performance under the most demanding circumstances. As Admiral Thompson rendered the first salute that Marcus had ever received from such a senior officer, the symbolism was clear to everyone present. Marcus had proven that unconventional backgrounds and innovative approaches could not only succeed within traditional military structures, but could enhance them in ways that benefited everyone involved. The applause that followed the Admiral's salute came from seasoned special operations personnel who had initially viewed Marcus with skepticism, but had come to respect his contributions through shared experiences in challenging operational environments. Their acceptance represented something more valuable than any official recognition: the acknowledgement by elite warriors that Marcus had earned his place among them through performance rather than credentials. As Marcus looked around the room at the faces of the men and women who had become his teammates and colleagues, he realized that his journey had come full circle. He had started as a young sailor whom others saw primarily as support personnel. Through dedication, training, and the willingness to prove himself repeatedly under challenging circumstances, he had become something that even he hadn't imagined when he first enlisted: a leader whose innovative capabilities enhanced the effectiveness of America's most elite military units. The future held new challenges and opportunities that would build on everything Marcus had accomplished. The Force Multiplier program would expand, creating similar capabilities throughout the special operations community. Marcus would play a central role in that expansion, training and mentoring other personnel while continuing to serve in operational roles that leveraged his unique combination of technical expertise and leadership abilities. But in that moment, as Admiral Thompson's salute acknowledged everything Marcus had achieved, the young sailor who had once been dismissed as merely the SEAL's helper had proven that innovation, dedication, and the willingness to serve can transform not only individual careers, but also the capabilities of the institutions that defend freedom around the world.